Good evening. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hope everyone's having a good evening so far. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. For any of you that are new, welcome. We're doing a book reading this evening, as you can see. So for anyone who does not know, we're reading the Kishara series. This one is Snakecharm. We finished reading Hawk Song like 2 weeks ago. We're about halfway through this book right now. It's a really, as you can see, really thin book. This series is a very easy read, so we are blazing through these books. So if you guys have missed any of the previous readings, you can find them on my YouTube channel. So just head over, just click on my bio, and you can tap the little camera icon, and it will take you right to my my YouTube page, and you can find my book readings and my main content that you would find here on TikTok as well. But we typically give it till about 8:05 to get started. So if you guys want to grab your favorite drink, got a few minutes, you can get your jammies on and get comfy on the couch or bed or wherever. And we will read for about an hour. So, hello, hello. I hope everyone's had a good weekend so far and a good start off to your week. If you're on the East Coast, hopefully you didn't get too much rain over the last few days. So, oh, it's so good to see everyone on here. Hi, everybody. Let me see here. All right. Okay. So 8:03, we got another 2 minutes or so. Miss Deborah, hello, happy Monday. So glad to see you. Oh my goodness. All right. Now just waiting to see if Julie hops on. Oh, real quick. I'm assuming so. Can everyone hear me all right? Like give me a wave or a heart or a thumbs up or something if you can hear me. Oh, Hawk Silver, thank you so much. That's so nice. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. So it's 8:04, so we'll go ahead and we will get started. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. Good. Okay. All right. So for anyone who has the book and who's following along, we are currently on chapter 9, which is page 73. And if you don't, then I hope you guys just sit back and enjoy. And let's get started. Too soon, it was time for the journey to the Hawk's Keep, a ride I normally enjoyed despite my lack of fondness for the destination. I had become used to avians, in general. It was just Danica's mother who made every visit to the keep a trial. I put the thought aside, catching Danica's hand to brush a kiss across the back of it as we walked to the stables. We traveled this route by horseback, accompanied by 4 of the royal flight and 2 of the palace guard. Betsy, who had never learned to ride, had already flown ahead and planned to meet us at the keep. Ooh, that was a new one. Thank you. A knight helmet. Valine had politely asked to remain in Serpient lands, expressing a preference for the company of dancers to that of the woman and court who had shunned her years before. The mood for most of the trip was light. Our guards spoke among themselves as they rode, sharing stories as we passed through a wood that had once been fraught with death. "How goes the dancing, Ray?" I heard Erica ask. The crow reddened, but he answered, "I don't exactly have a knack for it, but I'm enjoying myself." Was she the lady who had challenged him? Combined with Ray's sharp defense of the sparrow when he had been discussing potential falcons, this light conversation made an excellent case that something was going on between these two. "When do I get to see—" Erica broke off, frowning, and said without changing tone, "A couple more just appeared." At the same time, Ailib pulled up alongside us, his brows tense with concern. When he glanced at me, I saw that his eyes had turned pure blue, save for the black slit pupils, snake eyes. Even before he spoke, I knew that his doing so would display fangs. Once I had always traveled in a similar half-form, but I preferred to stay in a purely human form when around Danica. "There's a group in the woods, shadowing us," Ailib said softly. "It started as one, but others have just joined them." I nodded, then sped my horse up slightly to ride alongside Danica. My voice was light, so anyone following us would think it casual conversation if they caught the tone. "We're being followed." Her eyes widened fractionally. "Who?" "Not sure." I cut the conversation short, moving slightly ahead of my mate. As Ailib had done, I shifted partially, utilizing the natural weapons and armor I always had available. More importantly, the slight change brought with it a cobra's senses. There were 6 figures moving together, trying and failing to be stealthy. At least 2 were serpents. I knew that only by smell. I could see the 4 avians by the heat emanating from their bodies. None of them was moving as if familiar with the force, which meant they probably had not been professional soldiers. Ray whistled to his people, and we kicked up our pace to one that followers on foot would be hard-pressed to maintain. A sharp caw from the left attracted the guard's attention. I felt the wind on my face as the members of the royal flight grew the wings of their demi-forms, elegant feathers spreading in a defensive posture. Ailib and Kyler, his second in command, followed suit, each unclipping from the side of his saddle the long, blade-ended staff the palace guard used in close combat. I saw scales spread across their skins, Ailib's as white as morning frost, and Kyler's brown and golden. The serpents came from the left, taking the attention of 2 of Ray's people, while Ailib and Kyler confronted winged attackers. Ray shouted to Erica, "Get Danica and Zane out of here." Any other time I would have stayed to fight, but with Danica's and my child's lives at stake, I wanted to take no chances. Before I could kick my mount into a canter, I heard the fateful twang of a serpient bowstring. I heard the whistle in the air, and the wet sound of wood striking deep into flesh. Danica's horse went down, an arrow deep in its shoulder. I rolled from my own mount as I saw her fall and landed on the soft ground with panic in my chest. Before I could rise, one of the avians thrust a blade toward me. Had I been in full cobra form, an observer would have seen the famous flared hood with its infamous markings. Quickly I let my natural snakeskin armor ripple into place across my arms and throat, then faced my attacker with slit garnet eyes and a cobra's fangs. The shift made my attacker recoil. Instinctively I caught his gaze, drawing my blade in the instant my would-be murderer was off guard. Before he could recover, Ailib had engaged him, leaving me free to look at Danica. 2 of the royal flight knelt beside her, their wings spread across her body, protecting her against other arrows. Was she hurt? Unconscious? Dead? She can't be dead. Ray started giving commands again before I could get to Danica's side. "Erica, get Zane. I've got Danica." He shoved through the crowd, pausing only to extract his blade after it met an opponent's throat. I only saw him lift Danica in his arms before Erica spoke to me, but I heard the beating of his wings and felt the wind from them. He had her safe. "Change shape," the sparrow ordered. "What?" If she intended to fly out of there with me, she was out of her mind. Even to save my life, I never wanted to have my feet more than jumping distance from the ground. A sound to my left caused me to spin just in time to face another avian. I felt the sting of a blade breaking through my snakeskin before I could raise my own blade and make a killing blow. It was not pain that hit me, but something close, something suffocating and wrenching that froze my breath and darkened my vision. And suddenly I found myself recalling that avian blades were often poisoned. I heard Erica curse as she grabbed my arm, but then the pressure of her fingers on my skin faded, along with sight and sound and everything else. Chapter 10. When I woke, I found myself wondering whether my head had exploded, or whether perhaps that would be preferable. I rolled onto my stomach and had to grip the edge of the bed until I could convince the furniture to stay still. It couldn't have been poison. Only one poison existed that affected a cobra that strongly, and if it was mixed strongly enough to knock one out, it was mixed strongly enough to kill. Was it something Erica had done? I started to push myself up and suddenly felt hands on my arms. I heard a voice saying, "Don't try to sit up yet." Warm hands. Avian hands. Doctor's voice. Were we in the keep? We must be. How had I gotten there? I sat up anyway. The doctor, an avian I didn't know, pulled back from me a little, but offered me water, which I drank greedily. My senses were returning slowly. Every muscle ached, but seemed to work. I managed to stand when I tried, though I had to grip the bedpost to keep from falling over. The doctor implored again, "Please, you aren't well." My memories returned, and I demanded, "Where's Danica?" My voice was hoarse, my throat as dry as ash. The doctor's hesitation made me start to push past her to the door, despite the way the world rocked and swayed around me. The avian finally started talking. "She is still unconscious." There was more worry in her voice than I cared for. "What's wrong?" "Her temperature is rising," the woman said hesitantly. "Betsy is worried that the child was hurt." No. I shouldered my way past the doctor and down the hall. We were on the Tuulithea's floor, and there was shouting coming from outside Danica's door. "Let me see her!" Erica. The sparrow's voice was strained as she argued with 4 members of the royal flight. "She's not to be disturbed," the guard answered. I didn't know these 4 well, and Ray wasn't with them. "What is going on here?" I demanded. I saw the guards' hands fall to the handles of their weapons, but none were drawn. Erica spun around to face me. "Please, Zane, you have to let me see her." "Explain why, and I'll consider it," I answered. "I'm still trying to figure out what you did to me. That doesn't make me anxious to let you near Danica." Her gaze flickered from the guards, to me, to the door they were guarding, and back to me again. Then I felt a rush of power, and the backlash of it as it struck the 4 guards, sending them falling unconscious to the floor. "I can knock you out too," Erica said, "or you can let me go to my queen and help her." Falcon. I knew it. And I had a moment of indecision. Did I trust her? Did I have a choice? "Go. I'll be beside you." Betsy was asleep in the chair next to Danica's bed. The way she was slumped implied that she had fallen asleep as abruptly as the guards outside, probably at the same time. It reinforced my desire never to be on the opposite side of a fight from Erica. Danica's skin was even hotter than usual, and chalky. It was bruised and scraped from her tumble. Worse was the blood. I smelled it before I saw it, and I had to lean against the door frame, dizzy with fear. I knew what this blood meant. Even if Danica lived, the life inside her was not going to. What in the world was that noise? Anyway. I heard Erica whisper, "Milady, can you do anything?" "I think so. Give me space." I retreated to the sitting room, leaving my mate with the only person who could help her, a falcon. An hour passed as slowly as an eon before Erica emerged, faint and shaking with exhaustion. She barely made it to a chair before she collapsed. "She'll be fine," she breathed. "And the child?" I demanded. I didn't know what even falcon magic could do to heal that kind of damage. Erica looked up. Her smile trembled at the edges, but she said again, "She'll be fine." I panicked for a moment, thinking she was consoling me by assuring me again that Danica would be fine, but then I understood. "My daughter?" I asked hopefully. She nodded. "Your daughter. Thank the sky she'll be fine. They'll both be fine." "What did you do?" Erica frowned a little. "I don't know how I can explain it. I put the hurt pieces together again." She bit her lip, and a little fear was in her eyes as she said, "Your daughter will be fine, but falcon magic is not always the best for a mother. It won't hurt Danica, but this child will be the only one. I'm so sorry." When the words hit me, I felt too numb to know how to respond to them. Only one child meant only one heir. It meant that if this one was raised in the keep, no child of mine would ever be Dient. It meant that there was only one chance. Yet I said to Erica, "Would she have lived without your help?" Erica shook her head. "Danica might have, but not the child." "Then don't apologize. Death was by far a worse separation than the distance between the Hawk's Keep and the Serpient Palace. Don't apologize for saving my daughter's life. Thank you." "How do you feel?" Erica asked. I paused to catalog my injuries. "Like I fell off the keep. What did you do to me?" "Do you know the concept of force changing?" Erica asked. When I shook my head, she explained, "It's not a commonly used tactic even among my kind because it leaves a mark on the user's magic, but when necessary it can be used for fighting, healing, or hiding." Perhaps seeing the confusion on my face, she went on. "Ishmael, I have no idea what the weird noise is, but I've heard it twice so far." "I have no idea." "Normally, you change instinctively, taking with you any injuries you have, and any poison. There was poison on the blade that cut you. If it had spread through your blood, it would have killed you. I forced you to change before it could do much harm, but instead of letting the poison enter your second form, I brought it into myself. Amhaj was designed by falcons to harm serpents. It's harmless to my kind." I would never grasp the mechanics of falcon magic, but death was something I understood very well, and was grateful to avoid for now. "Thank you again." Curious, I asked, "Hiding?" Again, the falcon, I corrected myself, looked nervous. "Like I said, when you reach that deeply into someone else's magic, it leaves a mark. The power remembers that which it touched. If it remembers enough..." She held up a hand, and for a few moments black snakeskin shimmered across the surface. "That is as much as I can replicate of your second form." "Is that how you became Erica?" She nodded. "The Silvermead family took me in when I fled the island. Valine's niece and I were very close for a while, but then Erica was hurt. I tried to save her like I did you, but she was too injured. I was too slow." She shook her head. "It was too late. I barely needed to brush your power to take the poison back, but I immersed myself in Erica's, trying to heal her. When she died, the magic clung to me, so when I opened my eyes, they were Erica's." Valine knew what had happened. She let me stay as Erica so I could hide from the Empress but still live as a free woman. Later I got restless and joined the royal flight. "And you told Ray who you were?" "He is my commander," she answered. "I told him, and let him decide whether to accept me. I'm as loyal as any member of the flight, sir. You know that." I knew it, but what would it change? Valine had said one couldn't lie to a falcon. Ray had played on Sifka's arrogance to evade the truth, but I did not know whether I could do the same. "When Sifka speaks to me again, I can try to..." Erica was shaking her head. "When Sifka speaks to you again, tell her who I am." She's strong. I don't know how she didn't recognize me already, except that I have not used my magic in years. She'll see it on me now, even if you don't tell her. And if she thinks you're protecting me, it will put you and my Tuuli Thea in danger, and I won't allow that. What will happen to you? For fleeing the city and stealing a sparrow form, Erica answered. I don't know. I had a feeling she did know. The fear in her eyes said more than her words. But if she didn't want to tell me, I wouldn't force her. Maybe I didn't want to know. Before we could speak again, the door opened. Danica wasn't just fine. Her cheeks were rosy again, and she stood as if she wasn't the least bit tired. Even the minor cuts and bruises I had seen were gone. She was wearing a simple cotton shift that looked as if it had been pulled on hastily, and the only signs of that morning's disaster were the small bits of pine needles and leaves still tangled in her hair. She hurried to my side, asking, Zane, are you all right? Her hand fell to my arm, and as I looked at it, I realized I was still wearing my snakeskin, along with the rest of my half-form. No wonder the doctor and the royal flight had been hesitant around me. I let the snakeskin recede, as well as the other less human attributes of my fighting form, and saw Danica smile a little. I'm fine. The wound on my arm was minor, especially considering there had been enough poison on the blade to end my life. How are you? Danica hesitated, confusion on her face. Strikingly well, considering I recall falling off a horse. I nodded at Erica. You can thank your guard. Erica? Our resident falcon, I clarified. Danica leaned back against the wall. Oh, dear. I'll turn myself over to Sivka, Erica said. I won't cause trouble. Danica's eyes widened. I'm not letting her take you. If I may be blunt, milady, I believe this is up to me, Erica argued. I've sworn my life for yours. I won't ask you to protect me, not when it would only get you killed. Danica nodded reluctantly. This was Erica's decision, and not one that either of us would be able to change. Who was trying to get me killed? She asked finally. We don't know yet, Erica answered. Your guards took down 5 of them and dragged the sixth one here. They are waiting with her downstairs. We'll speak to her now, Danica decided before I could. I wanted a moment alone with her to tell her what Erica had said about our daughter, but I understood the need to solve this problem first. Before we could turn to go, Erica suggested, The doctors ordered your mother from the sick room, but I am sure she will want to know that you are recovered. I heard Erica hesitate before the last word, as she realized that Danica did not yet know the extent of her injuries. She looked at me, and I nodded. I would tell Danica later. If you will speak to Nicola and assure her that Danica is safe, we can deal with our would-be assassin. Erica nodded. One last question? Danica asked the falcon. Anything you want to know. If you aren't Erica Silvermead, what is your name? I'm going to try and say this without butchering it. Bear with me. Lakeljes oisa wimnehea oasanyet, she answered quickly with tired pride. Then she winced and corrected herself. Or I used to be. None of those titles are mine anymore. So I guess it's just Kel now. Thank you, Kel. Kel left us, and I turned to my mate, catching her hand and drawing her toward me. Again, the knowledge that I had almost lost her washed over me. I would have liked to put off telling her, but I knew this might be the last chance I would have to be alone with Danica before her mother and the rest of the avian court descended. For long moments I struggled to form the words, and I watched as the worry in her eyes turned to fear. Her hand pressed to her stomach. The child. Kel didn't mention... The child is fine, I assured her quickly, cursing myself for letting that thought spring into her mind. Kel says it will be a girl. Danica sighed with relief. Then, what? You were very hurt, I explained, as was our daughter. Kel saved both of your lives, but the magic she used makes it unlikely that you will be able to carry another child. Unlikely. I used that word to try to soften the blow, but Kel had been honest with me. I needed to be honest with Danica. Not just unlikely, impossible. Danica closed her eyes and drew a breath, leaning against me. This daughter was infinitely precious yesterday, she finally said. And she is just as precious now that she will be an only child. As for her future, she swallowed hard. I want to talk to the monster who tried to prevent her from having one. Chapter 11. With Danica beside me, I descended the stairs to the keep's ground-level courtyard, bracing myself for whatever might await me. I had dealt with traitors before. Rarely were motives clear. Rarely was justice easy. I stopped in my tracks when I saw the woman crumpled on the ground between two members of the royal flight. She could not have looked further from the part of murderess. She was avian, but despite the breed's famous stoicism, the face she lifted when she heard us approach was streaked with tears. "Milady Tuolithea, thank the sky you're all right," she cried, lips trembling as she spoke. "Oh, thank the fates, thank the wind you're alive. And my lord, I saw you fall. It's a miracle." This litany of thanks continued for a while longer, as Danica and I looked at each other and then at the guards. The spark of fury in Danica's gaze had turned to wary confusion. "She fought all the way back here, sir," one of the guards explained. "Then, the instant we entered the keep, she stopped. We explained the charges to her, and she started this. We've been careful to keep her away from the court. We didn't think you would want rumors to start before you could even speak to her." "I never meant—" The woman cut off her protest. "I complained about the child. Everyone has been. But I never meant to hurt it. I'm loyal to my Tuolithea, to her Alistair. I swear it, but she suggested it, how easy it would be, and I don't know but it sounded so reasonable." "She?" My tone was sharp, and the woman winced. I found it difficult to feel sorry for her, though I was beginning to form a bitter suspicion about the true culprit. "I don't know her name," the frightened avian replied. "Either way, my hands held the bow, and I know I deserve any punishment you—" "We'll deal with that later." Suspicion was boiling into hatred, and I had no patience for pleas and rambling. "First, tell me about the woman who spoke to you." "None of us knew her really, sir," she replied. "She was tall and fair, avian, foreign. She suggested how easy the plan could be, and after she left we continued to talk, and somehow it made sense." I didn't need to know more. I nodded at the guards, instructing them, "Take her someplace safe. I don't think she's entirely at fault here. Then find Kel. She went to speak with Nicola Chardet." At their looks of confusion, I clarified, "Erica, tell her I need to speak to her." Danica touched the back of my hand as the guards moved to obey. "Zane?" "Yes?" I turned to her, again feeling a rush of amazement and gratitude for her miraculous recovery, thanks to Erica, and fury for her near death, thanks to another falcon. "Why, Kel? Does that woman seem like someone who maliciously planned to attack her king and pregnant queen?" I asked. My voice was calm, frosty calm, shocked calm. Too much was becoming clear, and all of it was combining to form a shell of ice on my mind. I suspect Sivka was her mysterious avian co-conspirator, and Kel is the only person I know in these lands who might be able to confirm that. "Zane, she admitted it herself. She held the bow," Danica argued. "Sivka wasn't even there." Was I overestimating the falcon's ability? I didn't know how far her magic could reach. If Erica could shape flesh and blood to draw a deadly poison from me and save my queen and child's lives, not to mention knock out trained soldiers without lifting a finger, how much more might a royal falcon be capable of? Anmik had once been worshipped by those seeking power. Could a falcon of Sivka's strength control others to the point of making them think that something they would never have considered seemed reasonable? Did that make any less sense than what I had just seen? Perhaps anyone facing a traitor's death might weep, but terror had not been on that woman's face. She had worn the mask of guilt, grief, and gratitude when she saw her Tuolithea alive and well. She had made no excuses, only tried to explain something she hardly seemed to understand. If she was lying, the ruse was pointless. As Danica had said, she had admitted her guilt. I shook my head. At this point, I'm not willing to say whether Sifka could or couldn't have somehow controlled the 6 who attacked us, but even if she didn't give them the idea, I'm willing to bet she messed with their minds a little. The whole group needed indifference to their own lives and callousness toward our child's life to do what they did, and the woman we just spoke to had none of that. Sifka, I suspected, was more than capable of planning this crime. She had made clear her thoughts about our efforts toward peace, and I believed what Valine had said. Sifka would spare no concern for an avian serpent child. Shortly, the guard I had sent returned with Kel. The falcon still looked pale and exhausted, but she had recovered enough of her poise that she did not seem like death walking. Andreos accompanied her. His earlier absence was explained by a bandage on his shoulder. The skin surrounding it had the dark blush caused by poison. He was lucky it hadn't been stronger. You want to know about Sifka's relation to our attackers? Kel predicted before Danica or I had a chance to speak. She shrugged and added, I assume, after all, I'm the only falcon expert you have on hand, and there was falcon magic all over that group. She frowned a little. I should have reported that earlier. I'm sorry. I shook my head, dismissing the apology. You had other things on your mind. What can you tell us? I don't know the exact drawing spell, she clarified. The royals work their magic differently than the lower ranks, but that alone means it had to be Sifka's, unless someone else in the royal house has decided to visit, which I doubt. The last time any of the other 3 left was... She broke off, averting her eyes before she said softly, back when Alice Dare and Keisha still lived. Before the Avian Serpent War, then, before a time remembered by any living creature aside from the royal falcons. Rationally, Danica pressed, could she have influenced 6 of our people so they would be willing to attack us? It would be nearly impossible to influence someone who never had the thought. You needn't worry about Andreos turning against you, for example, no matter what Sifka tried. But if they had considered the act, it wouldn't be too difficult to remove whatever moral or practical inhibitions were stopping them. So she could make them bolder, but only if they might have done it anyway? I asked. Kel shook her head. If I took away your love for your mate, your respect for life, your fear for your own life, and your desire for peace, maybe you would kill Nicola Chardet. Not because you would ever rationally do it, but because you would have had no reason not to when she next baited you. I frowned. So you're saying these 6 were essentially innocent? Said Danica. Kel nodded. By falcon law, they would be guilty. Guilty of succumbing to another's magic, if nothing else, and beyond that, guilty of disapproving of the actions of their royal house. But by your laws, they're innocent. And all 5 of them are dead now, Danica sighed. Every one of us was thinking the same thing, but Kel was the first with the courage to say, we need to give Sifka what she is looking for and send her away from these lands. If I had imagined for a moment she would go this far to find me, I would have... Ray interrupted. You can't be the one she's looking for. Kel turned toward him, eyes wide. Is there someone else you know of? She trailed off, shaking her head. Selfish, idiot hopes. You can't be important enough to... Yes, I am, Kel answered bitterly. She took a deep breath and said to me, you should know. The Empress Sciarza and her heir, Araceli, command a group known as the Mercy. Before I fled, I was part of that group, specifically one of Empress Sciarza's 4 personal guards. The only people who outranked us were the 4 members of the royal house. I, along with my working partner and one of Araceli's guards, discovered something the Empress wanted to keep secret. Araceli wanted me executed just for knowing, but Sciarza protected me. She looked away and took a deep breath before she continued her story. The mercy works in pairs. My working partner was like a very close, dear sister. We had known each other since we were 7. She decided that the rest of the Empress's people should know. She shook her head. The Empress called it treason. When one of the mercy falters, her partner delivers the punishment. I refused to bring her in to the Empress. I fled so I would not have to torture to death the woman I cherished most in the world. Kell continued, in the Empress's eyes, I am the worst kind of traitor. She had given me her trust and her protection, and I betrayed her to protect someone who had turned against her. You can't be the one she's looking for, believe me, Ray implored. You said so yourself. The mercy deals with the mercy's faults. The Empress would not have sent Sifka for you. Turning yourself in would be useless. As I watched the argument progress, rising in emotion on each side, I could not help feeling Ray's desperation. Kell could have run when Sifka first appeared. She could have left Danica to die and stayed hidden. Torture and death, that was what she once had fled. That was what she was willing to turn herself over to now, and I didn't know of any way to help her. I could not protect her at the expense of the safety of my people, my queen, and my child. Kell explained. My partner, the one who would have been sent to bring me home, is only a step away from death, bound by her own magic in a madness that Sciarza's wrath forced her into. Even if she was not, do you think they would send any of the mercy for me, knowing that I left when I refused to turn in another member? Ray took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure, and then said very clearly, if Sifka tries to take you, I will fight her. Danica began to raise her voice in protest, but Kell was faster. She'll kill you, the falcon nearly shouted. And then she will take me anyway. I'm your commander, Ray pointed out. I'm sworn to defend you. Not from my own people, Kell argued. Not when you can't win. You are sworn to defend first your Tualithea and her Alistair. You cannot do that if you are dead. The argument was interrupted as Gerard, one of the royal flight who normally stayed in the keep as part of Nicola's personal guard, landed among us. Sir, Sifka is here. She is demanding her falcon. Kell took a breath and looked at Ray with a cool, sad gaze. Don't fight for me. Then she knelt, taking Danica's hand. You are my queen, and I have been honored to serve you. If that makes me a traitor in the Empress's eyes, I will accept that charge and trust myself to her mercy. Julie, hello. Thank you for joining us, dear. Chapter 12. Leaving Danica safely behind, I returned to the courtyard to greet our villainous falcon with Kell, Ray, and the rest of the royal flight to back me. Ray had agreed not to fight, but he had insisted that if they needed to turn one of their own over to the falcons, they would all be there to witness. The instant Kell had reached the courtyard, she had closed her eyes, and her figure had rippled. Erica had faded away, replaced by a woman a few years older, with dusky blonde hair, deep blue-violet eyes, and the demi-wings of a peregrine falcon. Sifka landed and returned to her half-form with her usual halter, rustling her falcon wings as if she was shaking off some miasma from the keep. The skin between her brows tensed as she scanned the guards and noticed Kell behind me. She seemed to deliberate for a moment and then said, With such a welcome, you would think I came to take a royal hawk away, not a traitor. She is no traitor to us, Ray answered, voice softly dangerous. Kell put a hand on his arm, urging him to hold his peace, as she stepped forward. Lady Falcon, I would be careful who you call a traitor. The Empress is just a woman. I doubt she would be pleased to know the lengths to which you went to find me. Sifka tossed her head. I doubt she will care, she replied, and as you are no longer among her favored, you will have neither the chance to tell her about it nor the power to level an accusation. Are you sure? Kell asked. Lady Aplomado, you of all people know how precious children are to the royal house. My crimes may seem trivial if the white lady learns you deliberately— Enough, Sivka snapped. The child you accuse me of harming is even more of a mongrel than the one your partner bore, and it will suffer the same fate. I saw Sivka raise her arms in an ineffective defense as Kel lashed out not with steel, but with magic. Sivka stumbled, dropping to one knee as indigo bands appeared across her arms and around her throat. Kel snarled, "Do you think I will stand here and allow you to malign that child? Did you think I would allow you to threaten my king and queen's daughter?" Sivka had been caught off guard, but now she peeled Kel's magic from her skin. Kel winced as each band shattered, but she let no sound of pain escape her lips. "You dare attack— I am already accused of treason," Kel whispered, her breath scarce after whatever Sivka had done to remove the magic. "The sentence is death, and not an easy one. I am prepared for that. I will answer to my empress when I return to the island, but until then, I will not grovel to you at the expense of my Tualithea and her Alastair." The royal falcon's expression shifted from enraged to amused. "You are too willing to be a martyr, Kel. I am, as always, what my empress made of me." She said the words as if by rote. Then Sivka answered. Her voice was cutting. "Then know this. Sharza never cared that you left her city. She has not spoken of you since your foolish rebellion. She has forgotten you already." Kel recoiled, looking more stricken than she had when she had agreed to turn herself over. Sivka continued, "Did you think a stolen form was capable of hiding you from my eyes? I recognized you the moment I saw you. I simply did not care. You are not the falcon I was sent to retrieve. The Empress has more important matters to deal with. If you are what Sharza made of you, then you are nothing any more. Stay here if you like. Stay in this backward land, never again to set eyes upon the White City, never again to hear the magic sing. Stay with your rat snakes and sparrows, always remembering that you are not one of them, can never truly be one of them. Stay with your Diente and Tualithea until fate catches up to them and the bloodshed begins again. Live among strangers and die alone." She spat the words like a curse, and Kel reacted to them as such, crumpling to the ground as Sivka finished her speech. "Should you return to the city, I will see that you are turned over to my Empress's mercy and treated as any outsider would be. And of course, you know that any child you bear with these savages would be put to death for its mixed blood." Kel nodded. Finally, Sivka looked at me coldly. "I leave this criminal with you, but be assured, someone will come for the one I have sought. The White Lady will not give up just because I have lost my patience for this search." The falcon's wings nearly struck me in the face as she departed. She shrieked as she took to the skies, and I heard Kel gasp. When I looked back at the exiled woman, I saw new marks across her shoulders, as if something had clawed through her shirt to draw blood from her skin. Kel's head was down, her face buried in her hands, and her shoulders trembled as if she was weeping. The royal flight retreated, giving her privacy. Ray looked shocked, as if he did not know whether to leave her alone or kneel beside her. Before either of us made the decision, the sound changed, and I realized that Kel was not crying. She was laughing, a brittle, hysterical kind of laugh, of one who has had a narrow escape. "Kel?" Ray knelt beside her, and finally she lifted her head. "I should be dead. For what I did. For what I said to her." Her voice held shocked wonder. "I should have been dragged back to Onmeek. Never— Why would she leave me here?" Ray answered, "Because she is a falcon, and cannot imagine anyone being happy, exiled from the city." Kel nodded slowly and reached up to brush her hair from her face. Suddenly she froze and haltingly explained, "I tried to take my natural form, to face her, but I couldn't." She shook her head, grasping a dusky blonde strand of her hair in her fist. "Once I had beautiful pale blue streaks like Sivka's, but not now. I've lost that. My skin's too dark, too. I can't remember how it was. I don't know if my face is right. I can't remember Kel. Not exactly. I've been Erica too long. Are my eyes right? They're violet, Andreos answered. Dark blue-violet. At least I still have that. She lifted her head, suddenly defiant. And I have my freedom. That is all I ever wanted. Then she turned to look at me, with a bit of a smile. That, and to serve a royal house I respected and trusted. After the tumultuous scene I had just witnessed, I barely had the energy to deal with the supposed traitor whose actions had revealed Kel to us in the first place, especially if she was innocent, as Kel had claimed. Andreos, if Kel can assure us that Sivka's influence is gone from her, you may release the woman your flight is holding. She should be harmless now. The crow nodded, but he looked preoccupied. He took Kel's arm to help her stand, and she leaned against him for a few moments before she took her own feet. The immediate trauma was over, but I still felt as if I was falling. Sivka had promised that someone would come. Would we lose even more to that search? We had already lost too much. Sir, is Danica well enough to receive visitors? Ray asked. He had hardly finished speaking before Danica hurried down the stairs and joined us. Gerard shadowed her in avian form, shifting a discreet distance behind her. She brushed tousled hair back from her face, then held out a hand to Kel. It's so good to see that you remain with us, Kel, she said. Dare I hope this means that I have seen the last of your people? Ray tensed, but Kel answered, I wasn't the falcon they were looking for. She shook her head. Someone else will come. Maybe not soon, but someday. Ray cleared his throat. Milady, He dropped his gaze. With your permission, I would like to resign from the royal flight. I was as shocked by the unexpected request as Danica looked. She answered instantly. Permission not granted. Why, Andreos? He shook his head. I have failed you more than once. You have nearly fallen to assassins, and you and your child were both just almost killed. Further, I lost objectivity regarding Kel, and would have endangered you further. I should have told you about the falcon. I should have... Danica interrupted him. Ray, I know you. I have known you all my life. He looked away, but she took his hands and forced his gaze back to her. You are the best captain the royal flight has ever had. You couldn't have done anything differently regarding Sivka. Though you opposed your objections vehemently, I don't believe you would have endangered us even if we had not spoken against them. May I also point out that I am not dead? Milady, please, he answered. I am good at tactics. I served you through war and could defend you there. More often now you face deception and disguised enemies, and that is not the art I know. And who knows better than you, Danica argued. You aren't making sense. If you are willing to accept a falcon into your ranks, Kel would be a worthy leader. She is the best fighter we have. And while this may not seem like a glowing endorsement, her former position on Anmik has given her more experience dealing with problems by means less direct than battle. If you have any questions about her loyalty, I don't, Danica answered. Or if you would prefer another. Gerard has always served well. He is the oldest of the royal flight, and Ray, Danica interrupted. I will allow you a temporary leave of absence, so that you may consider this decision, but then I expect you to return to your duties. The Falcons are powerful adversaries, and I have a feeling your faith in yourself has been somewhat shaken. But I remember the day you decided to join my guard. You told me your dream the instant you woke up. After fighting a serpent's poison for days, you took that poison to save my life. You proved yourself that day, and I will not allow a crisis of faith to destroy you. He looked away again, and his eyes met mine, pleading. I shook my head. This was Danica's decision. Leave granted, Danica answered. In the meantime, if she will serve, Kel may fill in for you. You, she finished affectionately, may come back as soon as your senses have returned. All right. I believe this will be the final chapter of the evening. Chapter 13. Excuse me. The cold voice behind us made me cringe for reasons that had nothing to do with Falcon's or Ray's abdication. Danica turned with a smile, and I struggled to do the same. Despite how well the recent months had gone, Nicola Chardet still refused to believe that a Serpient man could possibly be the right mate for her only daughter. Because of that, she hated me as only a mother could. I couldn't quite summon such a powerful emotion for such an emotionless woman, but all things considered, I did not know whether I would prefer to face the former Thule Thea or the Falcon Empress herself. Unfortunately, I needed to tolerate Nicola for Danica's sake, despite the way her golden eyes never quite met mine. She was discreet about it, but eventually one comes to notice these things. "Mother," Danica greeted Nicola warmly. "You have a bad habit of allowing your guards to inform me of important events," Nicola chastised. Her tone was carefully controlled, but it held a hint of the fear she must have felt. "I am sorry to have worried you. You have found us in the first calm moment since Sivka's plans delayed us." I regretted that fact even more than Danica did. Immediately our disagreement surfaced in my mind as I realized that Nicola would ask questions we had not yet resolved. Nicola just nodded. "You are queen. You had to see to your people first. The Falcon problem has been worked out, I hope?" "For this moment," Danica said. "Kel, who you knew as Erica," she nodded at the sparrow falcon, "was not the falcon they sought." Kel interjected politely. "The Empress is more than 2,000 years old. She does not make decisions quickly, nor does she ever hurry. To her, a day, a month, or even a century may as well be an hour. If she's the one who pressed to have this falcon returned, then you may not see the falcons again for generations." "If?" I queried. "To Empress Siarja, time is all but meaningless. Her heir, Araceli, is more driven. People speak of the Empress's will, but often it is Araceli who gives the orders. If she is the one who seeks your falcon, you may still wait years, or her mercy may arrive at the keep tomorrow. And unlike Sivka, they will not be subtle with their methods, or leave until they have succeeded. The mercy does what is necessary to fulfill their orders." She stopped abruptly, swallowing hard, perhaps as she pushed back memories of her own time in that lofty group. "I'm sorry. I'm so exhausted. I'm having trouble holding a train of thought. Do you have any further questions, or might I be excused?" "We can speak more of this after you rest for a few hours," I answered. And we would. Kel's descriptions had soothed none of my worries. They had given me new ones instead. "I have a feeling Nicola wants to speak to her daughter now anyway." "Thank you, Kel." "Oh, Henna," she answered. "You're welcome, always." Our conversation with Nicola was likely to be every bit as unsettling as Kel's ominous words about the royal falcons. "Danica, you seem to have recovered well," Nicola asked first, as well as we walked back toward a more private area. "I understand that Kel saved my life," Danica replied. "I feel healthier than I have in years." "And you, Zane?" Nicola asked, somewhat reluctantly. "Again, thanks to Erica." "Kel," I replied as we stepped into an empty sitting room. "For that I am grateful." The moment we were alone, Nicola prompted. "Gerard tells me that I am going to have a grandchild soon." "Yes," I answered, and for all my fears I could not help smiling. "A granddaughter, according to Kel." Danica moved slightly toward me, and her hand touched mine. "I didn't think it was possible," Nicola said frankly, "for a child to be born between our two kinds." "Apparently we've enough in common for it to work," was my terse reply. Both our kinds had human roots. In the best of worlds, the knowledge that we were not so different would dim Nicola's distaste a little. In the best of worlds, many things would be different. She trailed off and hesitated for a moment. "I am pleased to hear it." The words came out a bit rushed, as if her determination would only last so long. I would not wish to see my line end, even, "I am pleased." Neither of us commented on what we knew was the reason for Nicola's hesitation. She was pleased to know that her daughter would have a child. She was not pleased to know that her daughter would have a half-serpient child. As Nicola began her questions, I felt as if I was watching a bird of prey circle in the skies, coming ever closer to the moment when it would dive. "You'll have the babe here, of course," Nicola said. "Even if the father is not, it seems right that avian doctors should attend to an avian mother." I felt myself tense as Danica answered, "Most likely, yes." I understood Danica's desire to give birth surrounded by doctors of her own kind. The question was what would happen after that. Nicola let out her breath softly, clearly relieved. "If you know for certain that the child will be female, have you considered an Alistair?" This time I felt Danica's body tense. She answered carefully, "Zane and I haven't decided how we will raise the child." "Charday, surely you understand. If you don't give the girl an Alistair, she will be seen as outcast from the court. It isn't proper. And if I do give her an Alistair, she will be outcast from the Serpient," Danica interrupted. "I said we haven't decided yet, Mother. Once we make our decisions, I hope you will respect them." The hawk respected very little that had to do with me, but she wasn't about to say that out loud. Gods forbid she say what she was thinking outright. "Of course I must," she replied. Her voice remained even as she went for the kill. But have you considered what your people's reaction will be if their next Tuolithea is raised as a serpent? The war is over, thank the sky, but it takes more than a few months for the hatred and fear caused by generations of bloodshed to end. Your child might be able to end it after she is queen, but this first generation will be in a very precarious position. The Serpient have an heir to the throne, I believe. Would you, Zane, be selfish enough to keep this child for your world if doing so risks her right to the throne of the land that needs her?" Nicola Charday, damn her feathers, was a true queen. In that single little speech, she managed to hit every vulnerability and fear Danica and I had regarding this child. Danica stayed silent, leaving me to answer Nicola. "We will do what is necessary to assure our child's prosperity." The statement hurt as I recalled my conversation with Irene. We have some time before the decision must be made. If we can find no way to raise the child so both our kinds will accept her, then she will be raised to be Tuolithea, and I will name Salem my heir until another child is born, I had been about to say, but there would be no other child. Danica wrapped an arm around my waist and gave me a half hug, despite how scandalized her mother would be by the contact. Nicola nodded, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of respect in her eyes. "We will decide what we must, when we must." Danica's soft voice cut through the silence. "I hope you will trust us to do what is best. For the moment," she said, changing the subject deftly as her tone lightened, "my most pressing concern is that this has been a long and difficult morning, and I've yet to have breakfast. Perhaps you might join me." One thing was true in both our cultures. When a woman carrying a child said she was hungry, people listened. Danica had no shame in ruthlessly using that fact to disengage us from her mother's interrogation. And that will bring us to a close for this evening. Monday will be the last of this book. And then we'll start on book number 3, which will be Falcon Dance, I believe. Yes, Falcon Dance. So we got one more week left of Snakecharm. Next week, dear, next week. And besides, my eyeballs are getting tired. All right. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the reading this evening. Thank you so very much for joining me. For anyone who is new, we do this every week, every Monday between 8 and 9. So I hope you guys enjoyed this evening's read, and we will be continuing on Monday. Until then, stay hydrated, stay safe, take care of each other and yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye.